Hello guys, Greg back with another video. So today we're going to review a fragrance that surprisingly to me doesn't really get any talk or any love at all really. It's from the house of Yves Saint Laurent, and as you can see it's simply called Pour Homme. Now the original version of this was released in 1971, but they re-released it 40 years later as part of La Collection range. That range has got 4 men's fragrances in total, so it's got this one, it's got Jazz, it's got M7, which is now called M7 Oud Absolu, and it's got Rive Gauche. I have reviewed M7 Oud Absolu, and I've reviewed the original Rive Gauche, so I'll leave notes or links in the description for this video if you're interested in those. But this one here, the original the perfumer was a guy called Raymond Chalier. Now he's not a perfumer that I know much about, but he has done over 20 fragrances. The most famous ones are mainly collaborations. He collaborated on YSL Pour Homme and also on Boucheron Pour Homme. But in terms of this version here, I couldn't find out any information on who the perfumer was. Now this is classified as a chypre or a chypre, and you know, I'm not anyone to sort of like, not qualified to say that it isn't, but I'd say in my opinion it's got elements of a chypre fragrance. It's got oak moss and patchouli in here, but it could also be called a citrus aromatic fragrance, and that's probably what I would say it is. Only comes in one size, this 80ml bottle. So I'm not going to do a comparison video on this and the original. What I will say is that I would imagine that the original 1970s and 1980s bottles are a completely different fragrance to this. I don't know because I haven't tried them, but I certainly have owned and tried a lot of the sort of 10 or 12-year-old bottles from early to mid 2000s, and I'd say they've done a really good job on this reformulation, because I can't really smell any difference between those 10 or 12-year-old bottles and this one. So really happy with that, because that's unusual. Before we get into the fragrance, let's have a quick look at the presentation. So this is the standard box that you get with the La Collection range. They've actually changed the bottle design. If you've seen or have owned these, if you have a look at my M7 Oud Absolu review, you'll see it's quite a different bottle. It's actually got black around and you can't see the juice, but the rest of it's the same. You've got this kind of cool design. You can see there where the cap's at an angle. Let's take the cap off, just show you the sprayer. Actually a really good sprayer. So that's a quick look at the presentation. What I'll do is I'll list the notes as an annotation now, as I always do, but then I won't talk about the notes. I'll talk about what I get from the fragrance, because I think there's more value in that for you guys. First thing to say about this, above all else, it's a very mature fragrance. I don't see anyone under the age of 30 really appreciating this, and more likely guys over the age of 40, to be perfectly honest. At the top of this there's a lot of citrus, mainly lemon, I would say. I definitely get a lot of mint from this fragrance, and I get a slight sort of spicy leatheriness, which I think is thyme. I don't know if you ever smelt thyme, but I think it's kind of a spicy, leathery, slightly, that's what you get from it. It's not listed as a note in here, but I pick up something along those lines. The top of this does remind me of Dior's Eau Sauvage, also the original Armani Eau Pour Homme. There's definitely big similarities to both of those fragrances. So after you get that initial blast of citrus, which does remain as well, you get some woody floral notes, and it's quite a floral fragrance at the top of this. There's no lavender in here, but there's no lavender listed, but I certainly feel like I pick up a lavender note in here. When this one starts to develop, it gets very mossy in the middle, which will be the oak moss that's in here. It's kind of a damp, mossy smell, and it reminds me a little bit of the dry down in Chanel's Antaeus, but without the animalistic part of the Antaeus dry down. And when you get to the base of this, it's woody, it's musky. You've got patchouli and vetiver, and that damp mossiness is there all the way through from the mid to the base of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a couple of marketing bits that I found. So I've actually printed these out so that I can read these, because I'm never going to remember these. So here it is. So, the elegant freshness of an understated and refined man, in whom you can already feel the extreme sensitivity of Yves Saint Laurent. A fragrance which develops with infinite gentleness, producing a contained emotion. You feel immense tenderness and aesthetic and elegance at heart. A fragrance like in praise of beauty, an ode to profound being. All the freshness here is sustained by a vibrant base of oak moss, which combined with Patchouli delivers masculinity and strength, sophistication and elegance. So that's got to be some fragrance with a description like that. What I also found, I don't want to bore you too much, but I printed this out as well. The original fragrance, it said, the thing that I printed out, it says, fresh and simple but controversial, Yves Saint Laurent was photographed nude to promote this fragrance, breaking tradition and making headline news. Whether or not people realised it at the time, Pour Homme was a manifesto, a political act. Yves Saint Laurent wanted to show real beauty without artifice. With Pour Homme, he created a manly, simple, sexy fragrance for an honest man. So a lot of shit in there, basically, but that's the original marketing blurb. So basically, who's going to like this one? As I said before, this is a very mature fragrance. It's not for the younger crowd. It smells like the type of fragrance you'd expect to be worn as a splash on, and worn by a really well-groomed guy, sort of in his mid-50s. I'm 39 and I love this. So if you're in your 30s, I think you can pull this off. If you like Eau Sauvage, if you like Armani Eau Pour Homme, if you like Monsieur de Givenchy, I think you'd like this, because there's distinct similarities with all of those fragrances. Also, if you like Chanel's Antaeus or Eau de Rocha Pour Homme, or even Balenciaga Pour Homme, I think you'd like this. They're not particularly similar, you know, not really, but they've all got that mature, classic sort of vibe to them. So, purpose and occasion on this one, it's a signature type scent really for a mature guy, something you could wear. You could wear just to go down the shops, but also you could wear it on a night out in a suit and tie. It's definitely not a clubbing type scent in any way, shape or form. It's not a scent that's going to get your attention from young women, if that's what you're looking for. Performance on this, excellent on my skin. I love Eau Sauvage, but that just doesn't last. But this one is a much better option in that respect. It lasts all day, and it projects for a good 2 to 3 hours. One size, as I mentioned earlier, 80ml. Retail price is £62, which is about €80 or $90 US. But you can find it much cheaper than that. I wouldn't look to pay more than £50 in the UK for this. So finally, I'm going to give the ratings for this. Longevity is really, really good. It gets a 9 out of 10 for me. Projection and sillage, just short of excellent, but a very good 8.5 out of 10. Smell-wise, for me personally, it's very, very good. I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. So my overall score for Yves Saint Laurent Pour Homme is 8.5 out of 10. So there you go, guys. That's the end of another review. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do leave a comment and a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do. I'm going to have much more content coming up soon, so please keep an eye out for that. And I'll see you all soon. Cheers.